Okay, so if anybody's there and can see me, um, let me know. Otherwise, this is just a recording that I'm doing. And if you end up being live with me, that's great. If not, then you can rewatch this with me. So, um, I can't sleep. I've been having a really busy couple days. My mom's older and she got her meds mixed up and she actually OD'd. So it's been a few days in the Wassa hospital. And the good news is, oh, let me mute that. So anyway, with mom, she recognized me today and she's fully remembering things, which is wonderful. And she is due to be released soon. Hi, Sarah Lee. Good to see you. All the way from New Zealand. That's awesome. Yeah. So, anyway, that's a little update with me about what's been going on. And so I won't be on as much in the next week or so. We've got to line up some in home nursing to help mom keep her pills straight because this scared the hell out of all of us. Um, but like I said, she recognized all of us today and was talking and making sense, and that's a great sign. But the reason, I couldn't sleep is mom, but then I started getting sent things. Hey, Chase. Hey, Anna Jaskowski. I'm hoping I said that right. Thanks for staying up with me and joining me. So, people kind of send me messages all day long and stuff. And so when I got home, my phone had pretty much blown up. But the one thing that caught my eye is a whole bunch of different news reports that are going on in Wisconsin. And when we're talking state officials in the Avery case handing away bones to the family and not not standing by what they're doing. So they're saying that they could be animal bones. Um, would they really give the family animal bones? I mean, why? So my point is this: we need to look at them beyond the Avery case. We need, I did her name right. Great, thank you. We need to look beyond the Avery case at these state level officials. And when this information comes to me and I'm reading it, I'm like, oh God, I wish everybody was reading this. That's what I decided to do. So we're going to jump over to this. You're going to see the address and then I'll list it in the link below. So, this is a Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, so it's a reliable source. It says Madison, Governor Tony Evers' administration sought to block a journalist from publishing information from a confidential child abuse investigation by threatening prosecution, a rare move that could violate the U.S. Constitution. Wisconsin Department of Children and Families officials in January warned an NBC News reporter that his planned publication of a story that included information from an investigation file would violate state law and could result in 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine. Please cease and desist immediately from any further illegal use and disclosure of the documents in the child abuse investigation file illegally disclosed to you, and any information obtained in that file. Dries Durkin, chief legal counsel for the agency, wrote to NBC News reporter Mike Hixenbaugh on January 24th. Failure to comply will lead to further legal action. State law requires such information to be kept confidential to ensure the privacy of children who are or suspected to be victims of abuse, and carries criminal penalties if documents or details contained in child abuse investigations are released. The state law in question was designed to allow for an unbiased and fair child protective services and to protect alleged victims and families, said Tom McCarthy, spokesman for the department, who also said officials there don't plan to pursue criminal charges against the reporter. But media law experts say the First Amendment protects journalists' possession and publication of truthful information in the public's interest, regardless of how the information was released to them. And even trying to stop a reporter from publishing violates the U.S. Constitution. If somebody unlawfully discloses information to a journalist, but the journalist did nothing wrong, they have a First Amendment right to publish that information, Sarah Matthews, a staff attorney with the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, said in an interview. Hicksonbaugh, the NBC News reporter, obtained records related to a Child Protective Services case involving a former emergency room doctor at Children's Wisconsin Hospital who has been charged with physical abuse of his newborn daughter. The reporter did not ultimately cite the records in his reporting. The story includes details of the case, including information from medical records, and raises questions about whether the child was injured by an accident rather than by abuse. In the warning to NBC News over release of the case's investigation file, the department cited a portion of state law that says a person who receives such information may not, quote, further disclose it. The department did not allege NBC News directly participating in the illegal release somehow. When an agency turns over records to parties under the statute, we are very forward with these warnings as a normal course of action, McCarthy told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. The letter we sent to NBC was to inform them of these laws and what may happen if they violate them, while also maintaining our duties. McCarthy said Tuesday the department did not intend to threaten prosecution with its letter to NBC News. An attorney for NBC News wrote back to the department saying virtually all the information contained in the investigation file is available through other sources, including court records, which are public records, and cited 2 U.S. Supreme Court decisions from 1975 and 2001 that said the First Amendment protects the publication of information required to be confidential by state law, even if the information's release to a journalist is illegal. Robert Dreschensel, not sure I said that right, a journalism professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, who specializes in media law and constitutional issues, said the agency is free to ask the reporter not to publish, but cannot legally compel them to do so. I don't know how common it is for Wisconsin State Agency to tell a reporter to cease and desist and threaten prosecution this way. No other examples come to mind in all the years I've lived in Wisconsin. Dressel said after reviewing the agency's letter to NBC News, quote, any formal legal cease and desist order issued against the news media would be a prior restraint that is almost certainly unconstitutional. Matthews said the warning also could have a chilling effect on journalists who receive information in the public's interest. Quote, we don't want to stifle vigorous reporting on an area of public interest, Matthews said. Quote, ultimately it means the public could lose out on having important information. Matthews cited 2 more Supreme Court cases from 1979 and 1989 that said the First Amendment protects journalists from being held liable for reporting information that was illegally released to them. McCarthy said the department does not have previous experience with someone violating the law, quote, to this degree. Accidental violations and honest mistakes can and do occur, McCarthy said. But we have not been faced with balancing First Amendment concerns against the privacy considerations of alleged victims, families, and caseworkers before. These are admittedly tricky laws to navigate, he said. They are put in place to help keep alleged victims safe and to allow professionals to make the right decisions for the families of Wisconsin. A spokesperson for the Wisconsin Department of Justice said she could not comment on the matter because the agency is not involved in the state's response to NBC News and because DOJ would represent the agency in any potential related legal action. Bill Luders, president of the Wisconsin Freedom of Information Council, said Hicks and Box reporting raises legitimate questions about whether such systems are working properly for the public. Even if the materials were improperly released, it does not follow that using them in a story, especially a story that raises serious questions about the conduct of child abuse professionals, is a punishable offense, he said. Quote, the Pentagon Papers were improperly released too, Luders added, referring to the New York Times publication of a secret study of U.S. involvement in Vietnam that had been linked to the paper by a military analyst. And there we have it. So I wanted to share that with you guys. I'm going to come up top side here. What do you guys think? Thank you, Chase. Thank you. Bless your heart. I will put it toward our website. We actually have to pay for our email campaign to be able to contact everybody. So you just put a big chunk of change on that. Thank you so much, Chase. Great to see you back in. I am so glad you made it to a live. So you guys, what the thing is, they're not intending to release the information about the child's name. What they're trying to do is release information about a professional that is working in a public medical field that comes in contact with children that may or may not have abused their own child. And I get that we want to censor and protect information that would harm or put a victim in harm. I get that. I really do. But we also have to be effective journalists, and we cannot shelter truth that will get us somewhere in order to, think about it. If, as journalists, we don't cover the stories that matter, then killers still are going to remain free to continue, and a lot more people get hurt. Abusers are going to continue their activity. So, yeah, we have to call it out. We don't necessarily have to name victims, okay? But we've got to call it out as to what we see it as. We're not saying that this person is a child abuser. We're trying to bring the story out there and say, let's look at this. If this is a professional and there's a chance that they're harming children, don't we as a right need to know that? Especially if it's connected to a medical field of any kind. Hi Bethany, good to see you. It really bothers me that we're being badgered to censor our speech. If as a journalist we have something to cover and such, and we're not claiming that this is true or that is true, we're interviewing someone else that is claiming it. I think they have the right to share their story just as much as another person. And the laws do protect that. The laws do protect us to say, hey, what the heck happened over here that victims didn't get justice? And I think Andrew Whitehead said it so well. I'm loving your videos, by the way, Andrew. I watch every single one. You are on this. Keep up the excellent work. Hi, Shaz from Oz. Love that. So we got New Zealand. We've got Oz. You guys kind of list out where you're from if you want, and if you're comfortable sharing that, and I'll call you out. So Shaz from Oz, and we've got Sarah Lee from New Zealand. Good to see you guys, and the rest of you too. So the way I kind of look at it is this. I know when I rock the boat, which I tend to do from time to time, some people become upset. But the bigger picture here is that we're all going to work our own way, and we all have our own channels. We all wanted to reach the same goal, and that is to get this corruption uncovered. I find it interesting to me. I was sitting here thinking about this. I've been watching Twitter a lot, and everybody's been talking about how is this timeline any good with the whole van that Teresa photographed. I mean, it's kind of like we've got this weird call coming from Bobby's house. I know I'm totally flipping gears here, but I kind of wanted to dig into some of this other stuff now that I can't sleep because children may be being hurt and people aren't allowed to journalistically investigate it. That kept me up. And plus, like I said in the beginning, the thing with mom and stuff. But like I said, she's going to be absolutely fine. In a few days, she'll be released from the hospital. She's elderly. She mixed up her pills and she actually OD'd. I was freaking out. It was her birthday because she's born on Groundhog's Day. And I'm calling and calling and calling and calling, and I'm not getting nothing. And it's her birthday. So finally, we did a wellness check, and sure enough, got her there, but we're good to go. So, but let's get back to this, where everybody's tweeting right now about the van, the timing of the bus and the bus driver, where the van is. Now we have a Plymouth. There's two vehicles listed, which is confusing to me. There's two different vans. There's a Dodge minivan and a Plymouth Voyager. So those are two different vehicles, and I got to thinking, what if there's a hustle call made on a second minivan? Is that a call that came from the 8715 number that originated at the Dassey landline at around 11:45 a.m.? Is that the hustle shot we're looking for? Is it possible? I'm just asking. You know, I know there's certain people that don't like me to speculate. I'm sorry, you guys. This is what I do. This is who I am. Okay, it just bothers me because these are car people. They run a junkyard, a salvage yard. They know every kind of vehicle there is made. How could that have possibly been a Plymouth Voyager and a Dodge minivan? How'd we get two different vans, right? Okay, so we've got the call around 11:40 something over at the Dassey residence at the 8715 landline registered to Tom Yonda on the same day as supposedly Teresa's on her way to photograph Stephen Avery's sister's vehicle, which is the other van. So the vans don't match. Is it possible that's the other hustle shot that led her to possibly Cuss Road? Did they have, if I can't remember which one was sitting on the Dassey property there right by Stevens driveway, but let's say it's the Dodge minivan over there. Then was a Plymouth Voyager used on Cuss Road as her hustle shot? Is that what got her down there? What do you guys think? Let's check it out. Okay, so we've got, Marlikins, good to see you from London. Awesome. I love my tea. I don't know how to talk English very well. That sounds really funny. But yeah, with an accent. Oh, Mishkat. Oh, my golly. Wow. That always rocks me a little bit because I feel like, you have such good understanding of the case if you're from the area. Anna says, yeah, he got railroaded. Chase asked, do you feel like Avery got railroaded as well? And she said, yes. Justin Limix here, and he says to me, it doesn't sound like they don't want to report on the victim, but they want to bring light of someone who is in the position of power. Correct. Very much so. And this is almost an underhanded way of stopping that information to coming to light because it violates the United States Constitution and the freedom of speech, among other laws. So it kind of lately, I brought out some information as a journalist. I interviewed some people, and these people made their own claims, and yet other people that are truthers targeted these locals for coming forward, and it's not the way to do it. That's not how you go about it. You go interview them yourself. You ask me for their phone number. But to target them in a public setting without not giving them a voice to defend themselves is improper. It's indecent and it's wrong. Okay? So I get where the hospital's coming from, where they don't want the victim's name out there. But at the same time, I have a kitty cat that's digging something up down here on the floor with my cords. So hopefully we stay online and the cat doesn't bite the cord. Rick, what you doing? Yes, my cat's name is Rick, okay? Rick, stop it. You're going to cut our live off. He's a beautiful kitty. So what we have here is this whole timeline. Let's go back. We're going to flip now. We're going to go back to the Bobby thingy here. And I'm on Twitter right now. I'm just showing some of the things that are being tweeted, just so you don't have to look at the same old screen. So let me get on something that Eye of the Tiger's doing here. And Miguel Gorilla 39 is out there. Oh yeah, the information that he's doing on Loof is incredible. If you're not a Redditor, this is the one time I think you should really dig in and look at this. It's episode 6, Loof Science, retrospective question answer. Excellent, excellent. So let's go ahead and give that an upbeat there. All right, so the idea here is, if Bobby, okay, let's say there is a second hustle shot, okay? It could explain our timeline issues we have. We have a double timeline. We have a 2:30-ish timeline. We have a 3:30-ish timeline. And we have two different stories on Bobby. He was in bed when everybody got up, but he claims he left. Steve claims he left right after Teresa. So if we ran a double timeline, would it start fitting both scenarios? So is it possible that Teresa went at 2:30-ish and took the photos of the Plymouth minivan? And I may have this backwards. Like I said, it might be vice versa, but we'll go with it for now. So she takes a picture of the Plymouth minivan that's Barb's, that's scheduled by Steven on the Auto Trader thing. And then he sees her, pays her the money, puts his hand on the side of her car. She gives him a magazine. She leaves. He goes in the house. He lays that magazine down. He comes out the door to go talk to Bobby, and Bobby's truck is gone. So it would only put Bobby seconds behind her, right? We have an 11:45-ish call coming from the Dassey residence, the landline, which ends up 8715 are the last 4 digits of that phone call. That is registered to Tom Yonda's landline. So that call comes in over there. Is it possible that the second vehicle was lined up, and that's why she was calling saying, I don't know the address, I don't know where to, I need information, call me back? Is that the second hustle? And is that hustle possibly down on Cuss Road? Because, man, we've got activity there. I'm just saying, Zellner ends up at Cuss Road, and how did Teresa get down there? And we have 2 different vehicles. We have a Dodge minivan and a Plymouth Voyager. Those are 2 different vehicles, and I'm going to repeat it. The truth is, we're dealing with the people that would know a vehicle. There is no doubt they're not going to screw this up. A Dodge and a Plymouth are 2 different vehicles. The Voyager and that it's 2 different vehicles. Now, let's jump over for everybody here, and let's see. Yeah, Sarah Lee says, all we can do is speculate given the dodgy official story. Yeah, until we're able to click some things to go together, we can't get any further. Like for a while, we had no idea about Cuss Road. None. For a while, we didn't know about Carmen Botwell. So sometimes speculation leads us a little bit further and we start digging up more information that we can say factually something went down on Cuss Road that was substantial enough to get a fire truck at night and only at night, an ambulance from Calumet. The DCI were down there. It was interesting that Manitowoc waited 4 hours before calling DCI down on Cuss Road. Why not make the call right away? So let's go back here. Paula King says, Dave Bagata knows a lot of what goes on in that country. True. Now, Dave's in Mexico. He's been in contact with several of us. We're trying to set up a time to talk. I want to know his opinion on some stuff and so forth. I don't know if it'll just be a talk amongst some of the YouTubers with him, or if he wants to go on interviews, or if he's just going to bring out some live videos. But I can't wait to talk to him. And I think it's interesting that, you know, what he used to say about the clubs, and then all these naked pictures come out of cops that are publicly nude, and allegedly, according to some of the affidavits that are in the Bimbenek case and so forth, there was illegal drug activity as well. And these are police officers? Really? And I'm surprised at the amount of people that are like, what's wrong with that? When it's obvious there's children and minors in the crowd. I would picket if my cops did that in our public park. I can't even. I would be laughing too, because our cops are kind of fat. So some of them, not our chief of police, but some of them are kind of chunky. Anyway, yeah, Anna says, yes, the Averys know every vehicle that's on their property, usually. Right. And they would definitely know the difference between the two vehicles. So that's why it's quite important. Had it been just, a normal family that didn't have a business, I say normal in the sense that they didn't have a business in any automotive field, just a family that lived on a farm, I could get the mistake. But I just can't get over the two different vehicles of the vans being reported by these people. It makes me think that we may have locked in to two separate vehicles. And if so, that would explain a lot of why she was still hanging out an hour later. Now let's work this out. So let's speculate a little further, then we'll go back to reading some of the comments. So in speculation alone, for those of you that don't want to speculate, play some music. Drown me out or tune out. But if you're into speculating with me, here we go. So let's walk this for a minute. So she leaves there. Bobby's right behind her with his truck. So somehow on Cuss Road, pre-sitting would be this other van, right? The thing is it wouldn't take much for that to occur. If you've got your face locked into a camera and you're taking pictures of a vehicle, you aren't paying attention. You have no peripheral vision. You're not going to see crap coming, especially in 2005, where the viewfinder on that particular camera is like 2 inches by an inch. You can't really see it. So you've got to actually focus on what you're taking a picture of and then look at it, right? So you're really up close to your camera on that small of the viewfinder. Somebody sneaks up behind you, bam, knocks you out, drags you over in front of the RAV. Someone opens the door, beats you to death while you're there. They roll you onto like the carpet or whatever's in the back that's disappeared from the RAV. You ever notice that? There should be a large T-shaped mat, a heavy-duty mat. It's in the specs of the Toyota RAV4 for the 1999 vehicle. Or 89, I'm sorry, vehicle. Anyway, this mat in the back of the RAV is gone. And it's not an old gone, because you can still see where the prongs, where the mat dug in, were there fresh, just like it was moved. You can also see, when you look at the pictures of the blood that hit that inner panel on the right side of the cargo area, if you look down on the carpet, you can see like someone drew a ruler where the blood just stops. Now, if blood is running, it's not going to stop in a parallel line unless something that is very straight lays there. So this body would have been put on this rug, this carpet, this T-shaped carpet that's in the back, and would have had to be rolled up and removed. Or the carpet just got pulled out. But it makes me wonder a lot about this black residue on these bones. You ever look at these bones? They have such a dark look to them compared to a lot of bones. And they claim that tires were burnt on them. Yet there was no tire smell. What if it really was this rug with this black rubber substance? This rubbery grip the bottom underneath to hold that rug in place with its like spiky feet. Just a thought. Let's go over here, top side, see what's going on. Okay, so Bethany Marcy says, I honestly think there's more to look into with TP, which is Tom Pierce. Really, TH told no one but him she was leaving Auto Trader, and he doesn't tell the other employees who now call in to see why she hasn't reported to work. Anna says there is a lot of people in this country or county that get railroaded. Okay. We know this. It's coming out. It will be coming out. Not all the locals are giving up. Well, none of them are. They're actually bonded even stronger, but they came online. They're not online people like Jim doesn't even understand YouTube that great. When I told him that some of the videos get 50,000 views, that a handful of them had, he was floored. He's like, are you serious? So I mean, the thing is they're trying to trust online people, and I was hoping they would do interviews with a lot of other YouTubers, but right now, with the childish display that took place, unfortunately, right now they want to think about it. But they're still fighting the local corruption the best they can. They're still coming together, and they're still taking action. Unfortunately, we don't get to be part of it right now and help. But I'm hoping it's just a cooling off period, and they'll see that it was just a handful of people pulling some stunts. The rest of us are curious to know what they have to say. Maybe they'll do an interview with Andrew Whitehead. He is excellent. I trust him, and I would highly recommend him. So let me grab a drink real quick, and we're going to dig back in. I'm a loud gulper. So Bethany Marcy goes on to say, then she confided in him her personal life, but she doesn't tell anyone but him. Yeah, that is strange. And Tom Pierce, you bring up a good point, Bethany. And Tom Pierce, her boss in Green Bay, he's taking naked photographs and stuff, but he's also doing child pictures, and he's taking pictures of the Green Bay Packers, and he's talking about her in past tense. And the cops are really, really thrown off by the fact that they're asking to try to find her if she could have left if there was places she talked about. And we all know there's even newspaper clips where Teresa was reportedly talking about how she loved to travel. It was one of her funnest things to do. And that she had done extensive traveling already. And the furthest he could come up with is maybe she might have wanted to go to Green Bay or something. Just seems strange. Very off-putting. He did collect some cigarette butts and some licked envelopes and stamps that were in the, I want to say, like the developing room, and called the police to come get those. But there's something off with Tom Pierce for him to be talking in the past tense. He was very worried about this emergency kit he gave her as a gift, and says that he didn't see it again. And then we have that strange request where the investigators are looking for that special tool, quote unquote, in the Casio reports all over the place with the garage door opener. So you have to kind of wonder what in the hell is going on there. Let's see. Paula King says corruption at its harshest, from doofy bent cops all the way up to the Attorney General's office. Very interesting that right before Attorney General Peg takes office, this guy named Giles, Giles, I believe, was our Attorney General, and he just up and retires right then and hands the torch over to Peg. But he doesn't go far. He takes over a big position in a corporation that's directly related with the DOT. And so people say, well, how could you, you think about the 5th, when the RAV was found, the entire DOT computer system dropped completely off. You can go back and listen to the calls of them complaining that the computers are still down of the DOT. And it was like radio silence. And this is the day they find the RAV. I find that very suspicious. Very, very suspicious. Chase agrees and says, Anna, I hear you. Anna says yes, and the Averys know every vehicle that's on the property. Chase says, yeah, it's obvious, and I can't stand why they still can't get any justice. Anna says, because the cops around here are, well, I can't say that, but you can read it. There still is illegal drug activity, I do believe. Paula says, TH's car was the only car with debris covered over it, i.e., or law enforcement, she meant, covered up with bits of tree, etc. And what? Oh, she's saying, i.e., an example, covered up with bits of trees, etc. And why won't Krat's new crew let KZ have the so-called original RAV4? Yeah, why can't we just have the RAV4? In any wrongful conviction case, why deny the defense the opportunity to retest any of the evidence? That in itself should be a crime. I believe that you should have the right to defend yourself at all legal places that you could, which would be to test the evidence with the new developing DNA. And with science, they sent so many people to prison. The FBI was quoted as saying that they knew of 20,000 cases of wrongful possible convictions based on hair analysis and bite marks. 20,000 cases that they would openly admit that had to be reviewed on junk science. Now we're looking back at junk science, and I'm looking at 7 loci. 7 loci, and we have to have almost, what is it now, 20? Come on. 7 loci tells us that there's arms and legs and that they walk upright. That's about it. Seriously. And what's up with this whole Sherry Culhane can't test any more of the bloody handprint on the back of the RAV? There's enough DNA to go back there all day, every day for a year. Just go swab it again. Retest that. Don't give me this whole partial bull crap. We know what you're doing. Yeah, we know. Obviously, that was something that did not point to Stephen Avery or Brendan Dassey. Or, and we know it didn't. Because the partial profile apparently ruled out that it wouldn't have been either of them. So, okay, back's over here. Let's see, top side. Hey, Carol from Australia. That's awesome. I love that, the whole world does watch. It's not an understatement. Chase says, Paul, the Calumet County won't let her have it because they know it's not Teresa's. So some people believe that. I mean, look at the vehicle. If Teresa had driven this vehicle, I promise you her handprints are in that vehicle. If she drove the vehicle, her handprints are in that vehicle. There's no way. I used to travel. You live in your car. You literally brush your teeth from your trunk at times when you're on the road doing photographs. I was an auctioneer, and now I'm in the medical field. But as an auctioneer, you travel and you do about the same thing. You got to go out and photograph stuff. And there's times you literally are changing on the side of the road, on a dirt road, into a different outfit because you're covered in cow shit. And you got to get different shoes on and stuff. So, no, your handprints are going to be all over there. Let alone that, supposedly, allegedly, according to the reports, Tom Pierce gave them cigarette butts. If Teresa smoked, maybe she didn't smoke in her car because of business or something. But what about the occasional, tobacco and lighter and stuff that we never see? I'm just saying, if she's a smoker, there should have been immense amount of lighters and stuff found like that and in her car under the seats, because we've all lost our lighters. Fall out of your purse, whatever. Just a lot of weird, bizarre questions in it all. Rick, what are you doing? Rick is my cat, and he's huge, and he's like trying to visit us. And I don't have time right now. Let's see. Shaz, I think spot on, Chase. Right. Yeah. Crockett, hey, good to see you. Good to hear Crockett as well and joining us. Bethany says, I just find it odd he had all the answers. Are you talking, well, who had all the answers? I lost it. I lost the train. Oh, Tom Pierce had all the answers. Yeah, and nobody's ever confirmed anything Tom Pierce said, really. To be honest. Let's see here. Carol says, very suspicious. I'm sure phones were working fine before and after. Paul King says, thanks, Chase. And yeah, that's just only one of the many strange goings on in this whole case. Justin says, it's blood, one of the best sources of DNA. I know. You're so right, Justin. There should have been ample multitude to this day samples on the back of that RAV cargo. Now we can't speculate any further on the handprint because we don't know who it is. So let's talk about something factual. In order to open that cargo door and deposit the victim and the blood, you would actually have to grab that handle to pull that latch in order for that to open. So for it to be a bloody handprint on the back of that, which it did come positive for human blood, it really makes you just say, well, right there's the case. How else could you justify a bloody handprint on that handle in a homicide investigation where you have the victim's alleged blood in the back of the cargo? And like I said, that back mat had to have been removed recently. It's clean as a whistle under there. There's not even a string or a hair out of place. And you can see where the outline of the mat was. So did that accompany the body? Which is interesting because, I always keep all the cases in mind. Christine Rudy was rolled up in a carpet, very similar to that. Just so strange that Christine Rudy was shot, rolled up in a thing, taken back to a property. Her body was dismembered. They tried to burn her body. Then they attached things to it in a barrel, weighted a barrel down, and threw it off the Colburn Bridge. What do we have with the Teresa story that the state alleged? Well, let's see. We have the victim shot in the head, body supposedly allegedly burned, body dismembered, and body strung all over the place. Well, that's what happened with Christine's body. There was pieces in different places, because of the dismemberment. So strange, and they happened a whole 12 days apart. Just strange to me. Very strange. Okay, let's get back into this. Hey, John Boats, how you doing? Anna says, I don't think that RAV4 is TH neither. Justin says, not just handprints, but DNA, hair, saliva, everything. Oh, you got it. I mean, if she coughed in that car, if you sneeze in that car, okay? One time, if she owned that car and she sneezed and so forth, unless it was detailed by like some crime lab to get it clean, it would have had her DNA all over. And yeah, hair gets wound up in the strangest places in vehicles. Hi, Crockett. Anna says, I think that the one at the dam I think she means the real one. Well, everybody that spotted that one reported that it was dark green down there. And we're talking about that turnaround on 147, which is real close to Scott Tadich's. We were talking about this last night, too. So what if the hustle shot didn't actually go down to Cuss Road? What if the hustle shot took place somewhere else and nothing happened to her? They just let her go. And then as she was traveling on the highway, the green vehicle was run off the road, and she was just shot through the windows. Because we have Irving Koenig reported on live TV, I think it was Channel 7, at the time, that he had seen the same unit down there at this turnaround, and that it had a hole in the front dash, not dash, but windshield by the driver's side. And then on the driver's side, the side window also had a hole in it. And then later, when the court came out with the pictures, and the pictures were blue, his wife reported when the investigators went there that he was sleeping. He didn't want to come out anyway because he didn't think that he had seen the same vehicle that was in that courtroom. Right? Yeah. Read that. That's in the Casso too. Let's go back to topside here. Paula King says, far too much corruption and conflicts of interest, but still BD and SA are behind bars. Any more news on Colburn's lawsuit against Netflix? Hey, I'll tell you what. I'm starting to think we should heat that kitchen right up. And I never wanted to really focus too much on Colburn because I didn't really know if he was like a patsy where he was just getting sunk with the evidence, or if he was like one I felt was actively participating. So I had a theory for a while, but it was all speculation, and it still is, that with Colburn, now this is fact, Robert Herman, who was sheriff of Manitowoc for years and years and years and years, owned the Cleveland Auto Sales and Salvage, the competing salvage yard to Stephen. Robert Herman ran for sheriff at the same time against Andrew Colburn. So in my mind, the speculation came in that it was possible that Colburn had the opportunity to try to possibly use this case to get himself elected. And in that, all he had to do was prove he was the hero, right? Well, it's interesting that him and Link seem to consistently find evidence left and right. Every time you turn around, these two are right there. Colburn snatching that camera away from the DCI guy to say, no, I'll take pictures of the AudioVox phone. You don't need to do it. And yet we don't have any pictures of the AudioVox phone. pictures of the blood on the floor, Colburn in the bathroom. He's right there when they're doing that bathroom. Right there. They're taking samples. Now they walk right from that bathroom out of there after collecting samples. And how do we know that those samples, how do we know? How do you guys convince me that those samples collected right off the swabs, that they didn't double swab it and send it in and state those came from the RAV? How do we know? Because can we really trust this crime lab? I mean, if you look at it, I'm about to drop a little nutshell here for those that are staying up late with me, kind of getting me through the night. You know, I have a lot to be grateful for today. Yeah, it's been a rough few weeks, but I still love you guys a lot. And I'm still going to be an investigative journalist. And no, it's not always going to be easy. You guys aren't always going to like what I talk about. But hey, we got to talk about it. We can't just, you know, like in the old days when I came out and I was talking about Carmen Botwell, I took a lot of heat, a lot. And it got bumpy, not for a day or two, but for months. When I came out and I asked about this whole Teresa Sinclair the first time, you know, I Googled Teresa's logo, and it matched a Google hit of another person's logo with the same business name, which was Teresa's Photography, only it had an H in it. And so when I clicked that website, it took me to Canada, and I saw that. Well, I don't know anything about that lady really, because I dropped it, because I don't want to cause any problems if she's innocent. If she has nothing to do with this case, I don't want to mess up her life, because she wouldn't deserve that. So I drop it. But this I can talk to you about. So I need you to bear with me as I go through this, because this is a big deal. And you're going to be hearing a lot more about this very quick. Then we'll come up topside and read some more comments. In 2006, when the Teresa Halbach Steve Avery evidence was being sent to the Wisconsin Crime Lab in Madison, we have a sister crime lab in Wisconsin in Milwaukee. At that time, Buting felt there was too many problems with our crime lab, and there was sites of drunken behavior at work, people that were lab technicians that caught being drunk on the job, that had extensive air records, as well as DNA evidence being taken home, falsified evidence of testifying by lab technicians that the fingerprints in this particular crime over here that's unrelated to the Avery case, that they testified that they were a match, when indeed it was proven that those fingerprints had never even went through the system. There was no identification. And so Buting focused his energy on requiring an audit on the crime lab. Now, I've said this before. Why wasn't it a third-party, unbiased person doing the audit? It wasn't. Interesting enough, you're going to understand more if you are familiar at all with the Ben Bennett case in a minute. We're going to stay on the Avery case. So, when this audit took place, our own government, Wisconsin State, did not hire a third party to come in and do it, but oversaw their own investigation. And the gentleman that did that was named Camp, C-A-M-P. And he was the supervisor of the Milwaukee Crime Lab. Even though they did their own internal audit, they still found some massive issues with the system. And people were let go. And since then, names have been retracted redacted, I should say, and retracted from the actual reports. But you can look all these reports up on the crime lab. They're still out there. Now, Camp, he went in there and he did that for them. But it's interesting that he was also known in the Avery case for being the supervisor. Now pay close attention. If you're snoring, it's my pug, I promise you. She's sleeping. If we don't let her snore, she'll whine at the door, so we have no choice. But it's not somebody on a CPAP machine, it's the pug. So let's get back to Camp. So Camp does this whole thing where he audits our crime lab. So far, it's not on the up and up for me. It's suspicious that we're allowing an internal audit of the state investigating the state, especially with what we know, right? But when Sherry Culhane files for a deviation report from protocol because she has messed up the standard test, the sample test, the clean test, and the bullet fragment of the Avery case, she doesn't get her supervisor to sign. No. She gets Camp's assistant to sign, right? What's that about? Now, here's the big part. Big deal. Big deal. Camp, in the Ben Bennett case, same guy from the Milwaukee crime lab, got caught falsifying actual evidence with Mark Williams. You know that name because he's the one that butt dialed Zellner to say that we should wait to look at those bones because we don't know what's in there, to cover their asses. Because they knew exactly what they had done with the bones. They had given them away. This is the same Mark Williams that gets caught falsifying evidence with Camp in the Ben Bennett case. These are all the same people in the top levels at state. So let's go back topside. Let's see. It's been rolling, so I just had to get that all out. You got to start looking at Mark Camp. I'm sorry, not Mark. Mark Williams and Camp, because they were playing tag team falsify the evidence in the Ben Bennett case, and they actually falsified it. And believe it or not, their bullet disappeared. The main murder weapon was this bullet, and that is all gone. Bye-bye. Well, that's what Sherry Culhane did to our bullet. All gone. Bye-bye. Can't test it anymore. That's what they did with the bones in the Avery case. Bye-bye. Can't test them anymore. That's how they're playing these games in the Ben Bennett case, too. And there was enough evidence in the Ben Bennett case to have cleared her, you know. She ended up getting her leg amputated because she jumped out of a window to escape being what she called trapped. She was so triggered and paranoid by the end of it that she died very early on. It's a very, very sad case of a very beautiful person that, in my belief, was 100% wrongfully convicted. Her lawyer is still alive and is talking with some of the locals about these photographs. I'm very interested in looking at them with them. And a lot of locals are on the cop naked pictures. A lot of them are. They actually know the people, and they're for sure. They're willing to sign affidavits that they know these people. So I personally just think it looks like Kratz. I think that really does look like Bushman. These are all my humble opinion. I have nothing to prove because, you know, I didn't know Kratz back in the day. I don't know Bushman. I'm going off of newspaper clippings and stuff. But I tell you, it's awful weird that these pictures were released. And there's 8 of them released. But there's hundreds more. So, okay, let's go back over to topside. I'm trying to see where we left off. Okay, Bethany says, get a good look at her missing poster, the one where it has her profile pic side by side. It looks super exposed, as if features were changed. A lot of these pictures look really typeset and photoshopped. They really do have a strange appearance. I can think of several that I find them just disturbing because they look so photoshopped. Crockett says A23 was visible, lots of DNA. Why no ID? Correct. That's a huge question. Shaz says, TH even traveled to Australia, who knows? Anna says, yes, yes, yes. Crockett says, how about states' request for extension? We knew it was coming. They're going to stall this out. They're going to get, if they don't request an extremely weird amount of time, they're going to get the extension. I don't know. It's like they're just stalling for these guys to die in prison, so we all shut up, I guess. I'm frustrated. I didn't expect anything different. Do I feel that it's fair? No. We're just going to keep hammering this case to the point that, the pressure is just too much, I guess. That's all I can say. They're scared to death of Zellner to get in that courtroom, I know that. About as scared to give her the RAV because it's not going to come up right. If it has no fingerprints of the owner in it, no hair, no saliva, nothing, then how is this person ever to have driven that vehicle? John Boat says, did anyone run the cops' party pics through facial recognition software? Not that I know of. I don't have it. But hey, John, come on my show and show that to us because that would be fantastic. I mean, maybe we need to try to Facebook it and see if it pops up some names. I was going to kick out of Facebook. It can grab all these different faces and throw the names on. Shaz says, there are so many wrongful convictions that they know of, plus all the ones set up like SA. Yeah, and it seems like everything was like before it should have happened. Like it starts off later than it should have happened. Like she should have been reported missing like 2 days prior when she didn't come home at night, and she's a homebody and she's home every night and she doesn't show up and she doesn't make a call home. Why didn't Scott Blodorn call that out? When she doesn't wish him happy birthday, why doesn't he call that out? It's on her calendar. And then after that, everything else happens really quick. They report her dead on the incident report on 11/3 when they didn't find the bones till 11/8. On Highway 147 at the turnaround, if she was laying inside that carpet in the back of the green RAV, and it didn't fit the profile of Stephen. It didn't narrow it down to where they could point at only Stephen. Would have had a lot of suspects, would have been a long investigation. That wouldn't work because we have depositions that are rolling out here. Got to speed it up. How do we get this deposition stopped? Well, we move that whole process up onto Stephen Avery's possibly. How do you get it on there? It's a third. Excuse me. I think I've caught a little something from being in the hospital visiting someone, because people are coming in there sick and stuff, and I may have caught something like a cold. But so let's talk about that. So let's speculate for a little bit, my favorite part. Let's say Colburn does find the RAV. It's got a body rolled up in the carpet in the back and the whole 9 yards. And it's a green RAV, the real RAV, and it's got the victim's DNA all over it because that's their car. And it doesn't point to Stephen Avery. And they've got depositions too. And Manitowoc's the one that found the car. Can't get onto Avery property. Let's put it as close as possible. Let's throw it down here at Deer Camp. Stage a scene so that later it can Manitowoc can pick it up and move it again. And now the earliest opportunity to move it would have been the morning of the 5th, very early, when all the Averys were sleeping, because the Averys would have got up very busy in the morning and headed out to Crivets. And so there would have been ample opportunity to do so. But at the same response, that would leave a dilemma for them if they have a body. And the dilemma would be this: if they knew for a fact that the evidence didn't point to Steve Avery, that it pointed to someone else as the killer, then that body is going to give the whole story away. So then you touch base on the Sikkiki note, and it says that the body was burned up in the smelter at 3 a.m. on Friday morn. Well, it just so happens at 3 a.m. on Friday morn may have actually been 3 a.m. on Friday morn, meaning the 3rd, they would have allegedly, suspectedly, in this theory, have found that body rolled up in that carpet. Why didn't they check the smelters at Cleveland's? Because he's in charge of the investigation, right? He's going to be the sheriff. He's running against Colburn. Was it a race for sheriff to see who could frame Stephen first? Was that why we had 2 timelines and all this got screwed up? I'm just saying. We got some ruthless law enforcements out there. All right, let's go ahead and look at this. Paul King, apologies there. There's not one shred of DNA inside S.A.'s little shack he lived in. Correct. There's no way the victim was killed the way they said, or even killed in that trailer. You can't have dust 2 months old and tell me that somebody cleaned it with bleach. You can't make patina. Patina comes from the environment. It can't be reproduced. It's how you tell the difference between an old antique and some fabricated one is patina. It takes a certain amount of time for dust to gather, and you can't get that kind of dust to throw back onto stuff. Not the way it was, just random like that. Plus, they took in that bed, and I read the Castle report, and you did too. They swabbed that thing every which way, every little micro inch of that, trying to find anything that worked, and there's not a drop of DNA. The investigators are sitting on the bed that they claim she was murdered on. They've got bottled water sitting out the dig site pit that they call Stephen Avery's behind the garage, let alone any idiot in this case. I don't care what your IQ is. That propane tank would have blown to high heaven had there been flames that are being reported. It's ridiculous. There's no way. The doghouse would have went up in flames. But that propane tank, you wouldn't have been burning large tire fires. Tire fires get extremely hot, and they roll black smoke. They leave soot on you if you're even near the area. There's a lot of questions about where Stephen was really just simply burning a little bit of brush. And guess who for? Redaunt. Redaunt had hired him a few days before to burn some of the brush. Yeah, how coincidental is that? That Redaunt is the one that reports him having a fire. Come on. Really? So let's go back over here. Carol says, Crockett Thompson, oh my God, I only looked at Zoner's Twitter yesterday and saw nothing. Did they have to specify how long? Not that I know of. Correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, I've been in the hospital visiting my mother, so I have not got to see a lot of the tweets. I did see that it was requested for another extension, which is ridiculous, but we knew it was coming. Crockett says that Millbilly posted 29 hours ago, Carol. Shaz says TH's DNA and handprint should be all over. No way it could be totally cleaned. I hence the suspicion it's not really her car. That's my biggest problem too, Shaz. And the bolts are all out and everything, and and the tire well there of the driver's side in the front, that's a tow strap. It's a commercial tow strap. It's been beat and weathered and everything, so it's gray with some dirty silvery color in there. But if you get yourself a high-powered magnifying system on that, you can see that's a tow strap. So, I suspect that they basically went under that tarp, used the key, opened it up, put the real VIN number plate in there, so threw it up on the dash. It's not where it's supposed to be. Pam Strum couldn't find it. Sturm kept saying she knew what she was doing, just like Andrew was pointing out tonight. By the way, Andrew, that was an amazing video. He made such a good point that she's in the business. She absolutely knows where it should be, and she can't find the VIN number. And then I believe it is Remaker. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was Remaker that testified. It was him or Uyghur it was Remaker, and testified that the VIN number had been tampered with, quote unquote, moved. Why on earth would that happen? Well, because they can just put that VIN number back on that real car later when they've used the old car, the fake car for all the fake stuff for the crime lab. So the crime lab's done, they can get rid of the blue car and put that VIN number right back on the other one, send us some pictures of underneath the hood so it shows it matches, and call it good. It's a swap. This whole case has been a swap. Look we've got two different vans. Somebody hit me up with why the heck we have two different van names being called in for Auto Trader. You have a Plymouth Voyager and a Dodge minivan. These people know their cars. Somebody called that in. Who is it? 8715. Thank you, Richard, for that. You caught my attention on that. I took it a little further, but yeah, like you said, do your own homework. And that's what I say to all you. I'm going to be very busy in the next couple weeks getting my mom settled in. We're going to have a nursing staff come in and regulate everything and do checks on her and stuff while I'm at work. And so we'll be fine. And like I said, she recognized everybody. She knew who everybody was. She was talking normal today, so she'll be going home in the next day or two. Let's see. So Anna says, everything you're talking about is why I have a mean dog in my house, and I always have somebody with me when I leave and go somewhere. That's got to be a hard life, Anna, to live in a county where you actually fear leaving your house alone. You guys, there are so many locals like Anna. They're not joking. They're terrified to leave their house alone. And they're trying to find a voice. And we've been saying for years, why don't somebody local come forward? Well, look just what happens when the locals do come forward. If they have two different people that have two different views or whatever, then that's called opinions and thought processes. And if they share them, they share them. But it doesn't give us the right as journalists to behave in an unprofessional manner either. So you can leave your like on the a like if you enjoyed the video, though like I said, at this point I'm going to be exiting YouTube soon, except for a few times we'll throw some stuff up there. But No Crime, No Time community is rocking and rolling, so if you want to look over there, I can type it out here. Let's see. This will give you the Casso reads, and that's all still open to the public. Let me type it with the WW. All court documents, everything like that is all public access, always will be. So it's a wonderful site to engage into research. there is file sharing, and there are some pictures, easy to find. You can share the pictures, all the public stuff you can share and connect up to. If you do want to become a member, it'll be more for like chats like this where we kind of go private a little bit, just to avoid the COPA law. I mean, YouTube got caught and charged $170 million for grabbing our addresses of our children and selling them to marketers. I don't want to be supporting that too long. So they haven't been monetizing anything I do. I've gotten a couple requests from them. I know there's been a couple YouTubers that have had videos taken down by YouTube recently because of the content was considered dangerous and inappropriate. Yeah, I've gotten a letter or two about politics. If I mention anything about politics, that's considered controversial and possibly dangerous information. So we've got to get out from under this whole censorship, and I don't know. I want to get done with the ads where I know they're collecting data and selling. I don't like that crap. So, oh, thank you, Carol. I appreciate it. Yeah, she's doing fantastic. Like I said, she recognized me today, and she was actually, she was very tired, but she was kind of chuckling a little bit that, yeah, she may have messed up some of her meds. Well, yeah, she did. She ended up taking them when she'd already taken them and all kinds of weird stuff, and it just got out of hand all in one day. And it happened to be that I wasn't available and blah, 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 blah. She's fine. She's going to be fine. So. Anna says that she has a cup. I think she means cop that watches me right down the street. I hope he's on your side, love. I'm hoping that more locals will trust that they can come forward for interviews. Like I said, there are certain people out here that would be happy to interview you. We do our best to protect you. And to hear more from Jim is going to be fantastic. Jim, he ain't swaying. He said, oh, no. He ain't letting none of this scare him. He'll be on here. So he has a lot of fishing coming up because it's going to be sturgeon there for him. But after that, it'll be Marchish. He'll be doing quite a few interviews, he said. So that'll be when we've moved over to the No Crime, No Time channel. So, all right, guys. Well, I'm exhausted finally. I want to thank you for helping me get tired because I was having a hard time sleeping, and then I read that about the Governor Evers administration trying to not get a journalist to talk about the Wisconsin hospital. And I was like, oh, I'm so sick of censorship, and I'm so sick of journalists not being able to do what we're supposed to do. You know, we're not supposed to go over and pull something off of the monitor that the cops have sent us and read it directly word for word like happened in the Avery case, because that is what happened. The media was completely controlled by the sheriff's department. And if you don't believe me, go and look at every single news clipping and see that they're worded almost identical. And look at the top of the Calumet Sheriff's letterhead, and it has the radio stations and the TV stations listed. So when they faxed something to one, it went to all. So, all right, much love to everybody. Thank you for hanging with me. Never give up. Be Brendan strong. I mean, that's what we got to be. If this kid can set an example, then none of us can whine if we're called a liar when we didn't lie, if we're bullied, if we're treated like crap. We can't really complain because a child was basically sacrificed in this situation is what I feel Brendan was. I feel he's an American hostage in the judicial system that sees him in the different light than the truth. And when that kid can come on here and he's still upbeat after all these years, when every single soul failed him, Be Brendan strong. Like Becca says. And by the way, Becca, I love you, sweetheart. Remember this. When you think nobody's listening, you have a whole world watching too, because you doing those Be Brendan strong, they inspire us to keep going. So you keep up that good work. It really makes us feel good knowing you're doing that. All right, so guys, I have a challenge for you. I want you to email me something. And the top 3 people that send me something that shows me how you're Be Brendan strong, I would like to share your story live. So tell me, how have you been Brendan strong? We all have very technical lives, layers and layers and layers. And everybody has tough things that go on in their life. Share with us how you're Brendan strong. What have you done that has shown that you are tough enough to stick it out and help Brendan and Stephen? I love reading your letters because so many of you have done so much, and the world's watching them. And I think it'll give Becca something to write about to Brendan. So, all right. Have a good night. Much love. And if you didn't do the crime, you shouldn't do the time. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody. Mwah.